Responsive apps can change their layout from a desktop to a mobile format. And today, Tasha gives us some advanced tips on using layout containers for creating responsive Canvas apps, and also why they are important for accessibility and also for the future of PowerApps. Today on PowerCat Live. Welcome to PowerCat Live. My name is Phil Topness on the PowerCat team. Today here with Tasha Scott, Senior Program Manager. Hey, Tasha.
Hey, how's it going, Phil? Long
It's
time
going
no
all
see.
right. It's been a while, right? You've been on before talking about environment strategy.
That's right. In my previous role, I came and we chatted about, I was a business program manager helping our folks worldwide out in the field, building cool things using Power Platform solutions. And now I'm in a whole new role. I am a program manager on the PowerApps Studio app design team, doing my best to make the product better. That's hopefully what we're gonna talk about some of that today.
So as part of what you own in the Canvas Studio is everything that all of us that build Canvas apps get to use every day. And one of these that you want to talk about today is layout containers. What are layout containers?
So layout containers are really the first step in bringing the Canvas world closer to the model-driven app world. For those makers out there that have been in both model-driven apps and Canvas apps, one of the things that you may know about model-driven apps is that they are responsive out of the box. So you as a maker don't have to do anything to make them responsive. You just put your stuff on the model-driven app page, and the page takes care of that responsiveness for you. What the trade-off is there is that you don't get to do, your very granular pixel perfect design in the way that you can in a Canvas app. And so that's why some people move over to the Canvas world and, want to build stuff in Canvas, because then you can put things wherever you want, like for better or for worse, right?
Yeah, right.
More control.
Yeah, that's the truth.
And so one of the things that we've done recently is we've introduced the concept of custom pages in model-driven apps. And what that does is it allows you to bring some of that pixel-perfect design to your model-driven app by including a custom page, which is essentially a Canvas app in your model-driven app. However, the famous line, with great power comes great responsibility. And what that means is that as a person who's building a custom page, you are now responsible for making it responsive in the same way that the rest of your model-driven app pages are responsive. And that brings us to layout containers. The great news about layout containers is that they're available to you in either your Canvas apps or your custom pages. And you can use those to create responsive apps with a lot more ease than former ways that used to be available to you to create a responsive app.
So can you show us what layout containers look like?
Yeah. So let's take a look. Right out of the gate here, you'll see that we're looking at a horizontal container filled with labels. And I think seeing this little icon here, you can see the little boxes are stacked side by side. That's how you know that it is a horizontal layout container. And I just want to show you right away, check this out. Get in here and play with this. It really helps to understand the concept of these containers by doing something like this. So you see, I just switched to a vertical container. You have little boxes stacked on top of each other now. And it automatically moved everything into this sort of stacked vertical layout instead of the horizontal layout like this, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, right? With your top level parent container, you want to make sure that when you drag that onto the page or screen, that you do a couple of things. You make sure you set your X and Y coordinates to 0, and make sure that you set your height and width to parent.height, parent.width. That way it takes up the full screen available. And you want to make sure that you have this wrap property turned on. And what this does is actually pretty sweet. I can take this container and you'll see that as I resize it, all of the labels that are in there automatically start just moving to sort of take up the available space for them. And that's the responsive aspect of this container. If I change it back to vertical, you'll get similar from the bottom, right? So if I take it and I sort of do this, you can see it starts to fill the available space available, which is pretty awesome, right? These containers have other properties that make them very responsive and useful as well. you'll see I'm going to change this back to vertical or horizontal here. And if I look at the justify properties here, I can make them in the center. I can make them butt up against the left-hand or right-hand side of the screen. I can also justify them so they take up the full available space. And I can do the same for vertical, right? So I can put them in the middle, I can pin them to the bottom, or if I really want to get squirrely, I can stretch them and they'll take all the available space that is vertically available as well as horizontally available. And if I change it to vertical, you'll see that it switches that to be this sort of vertical stack instead of the horizontal stack. So that's a lot that you can do with just a few clicks in terms of making your Canvas apps responsive. That's pretty neat, huh?
I can see why it helps to play around like you are, right? Because you almost have to get inside the container's brain to understand what it's doing, right? Why do it make these all tall?
Yeah, that's right. And just getting in there and doing that helps you to understand the individual containers, where it really does start to get a little bit more complex. And I do want to level set. This is an advanced topic, right? So for folks that are trying this out for the first time, if you find that your brain just has a difficult time wrapping around some of these concepts, don't feel alone. Totally understand. And it's definitely in our line of sight to continue to make this experience easier. More than likely, when you're using these responsive layout containers, you're going to have to nest containers. And I really encourage you to continue your experimentation along these lines. So we're going to move to this screen now, where you can see that I have this horizontal container here. And inside of this horizontal container, I have 3 nested containers all at the same level: container 8, container 9, container 10. And this parent level container, we still have our handy dandy wrap property set to on. And what that means is that now when I start to move this, you'll see that these start to stack on top of each other in the way that you would expect, right?
Would I though?
I mean, hopefully. I think what I'm trying to show here is that when you're thinking about building your Canvas apps, more than likely you have chunks of functionality on your screen, on your canvas, that you want them to stay together, even as you're thinking about parts of your screen moving, right? So to sort of continue on the theme here, there's actually some easy, quick ways available to you as a maker to get to those complex scenarios faster. And what that is we've introduced the idea of these responsive screen layout templates. So if you go to new screen, you should see here now where it says split screen, sidebar, and header main and footer section. These are pretty common layout concepts that people use or are frankly building themselves manually today. And in fact, this one is the star of the show in a docs article, which we'll share at the end of this presentation, that actually walks you through some of the things that we're going to talk about. So you add one of the responsive layouts screens, and you can see that it adds the screen with the layout containers already set up for you, the sidebar, the header, and the main section. So that gets you jump started right away. You as the maker don't really need to think about it or manually do it, although you could. And using these screen templates as a way to learn how the different layouts work together is a great way to learn about responsive layout containers as well. If we look at that, the doc sample that we'll be sharing later, I took that screen layout, the one that we saw here, where it's sidebar, and actually you can use that to basically accomplish steps. I think it's 1 through 15 or so of that docs article. And if you look at this, you'll see that we have our sidebar here. Usually people who are building desktop type PowerApps have like some kind of left nav. And you may even have like a top nav. And then I just, sticking with the theme of our colorful squares, added those squares here so that we can continue to see how this starts to work when you get into a more complex layout with your responsive layout containers. Now, if you're anything like me, And one of the first things that you want to do when you get into one of these complex layouts is like, oh, I want to see the responsiveness of it, just like I did before. And I don't know if you recall when let's revisit our intro. I can just grab this bottom here and move these, and it does the thing, right? And that's a really cool way to play with it and figure out what the responsiveness looks like. If you take that same idea and you come to this screen and you try to do that really quickly, you'll be like, oh, what is this?
Super frustrating, Tasha.
I know. And don't worry, I've taken that to heart. We're still working on it. And we appreciate and love all of your feedback. So please keep it coming.
Constructive feedback.
That's right. Constructive feedback. It's a gift. So the way that you can think about it is you really always want to remember what layer of containers you're in as you're trying to think about your responsiveness. So really, we want to look at the top level parent container here. And now you'll see I don't have the little like of doom anymore. So I can grab that. Make sure. Let's go down here. And you'll see I clicked container 1 down here. That can be really helpful, by the way, if you've never used these little breadcrumb down here to make sure you're at the top level container. And now I can do just like we were doing before. And if you think about it, it's the parent that's getting resized when you're moving your screen from one size to another anyway. It's not an individual container. So if you sort of internalize that it's the whole big picture that's getting resized, that'll help you remember like, oh yeah, I got to be at the top level container. Yeah. And then same thing I can do here too. If I start moving this over, you'll see this little guy will bump over to the side.
Right.
And so that's the way that you can sort of make sure that you're getting the responsiveness that you want.
And I think it's important to emphasize what you said earlier too, with custom pages coming. Layout containers are not really optional anymore to really make your custom pages work. You need them.
Yep, absolutely. And when you pull a custom page into your model-driven app, you'll notice that there aren't any screen layout containers available for you when you are directly on the screen, by default. So it is on you as the maker today to go ahead and pull those layout containers into the screen. I always want to start with your parent level container, just like we were here, and then put your nested containers inside and really think about the chunks of functionality that you're going to want and how you would like for them to stack together as the shape of the screen changes.
Now, how do you see enterprises using responsiveness in this way, or these layout containers?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because when you think about responsiveness, if again, like going back to my roots as a maker, I think a lot of us sort of have this idea that responsiveness is a nice to have. And if you're building a desktop, a Power App that's mainly intended to be used as a desktop app instead of a mobile app, you may think to yourself, well, I don't need a responsive app. And the reality is that even if you're building a desktop app, and especially if you're in an enterprise setting, you really need to be considerate of folks within your enterprise who will be using your app, who may need either a larger zoom, like 300 to 400% zoom on their browser. And you really do need to think of responsiveness as a key to certain accessibility needs for folks who are using these enterprise applications. So even if you're building a desktop app, you should think about using the responsive containers so that, as folks use a larger browser zoom, the controls on your app reshape themselves in such a way that folks using that larger zoom can still see the controls that are on in the app. And
that's a fantastic point. Yeah. And it does a lot of that work for you.
That's right.
So what's coming next for layout containers?
Well, this is an area where we are definitely still very strongly investing as we continue to think about, custom pages and how to, merge together like some of the things that are in model-driven apps and some of the things that are in Canvas apps. responsiveness is one of the things that's really key and top of mind for us. So we have a number of things that we're working on here, and we've been getting feedback about these containers. So please continue to give us all of your thoughts and feedback about the layout containers.
Thoughts.
That's
the
right.
Internet we're on.
And like definitely, we know that we've got work to do to continue to make this experience easier for folks and frankly faster, so that you can build responsive and beautiful Canvas apps and custom pages with minimal effort.
And so you mentioned earlier that the importance of, you haven't used layout containers before, now is the time to get used to them and understand them.
Yep.
Where do you recommend people go?
Well, these are generally available, as I mentioned. So if you have an environment, coming to a PowerApps environment near you, go check them out if you have that capability. And I would love to share this building responsive Canvas apps docs article
in the description.
Yep. And this will tell you what you need to know about the Canvas app layout controls. And there's a step-by-step sort of tutorial in the bottom of this docs that will help you go through setting one up yourself.
That's great. Tasha, thanks for coming back on PowerCat Live, and we'll talk more about studio stuff in the future, I'm sure.
Yep. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.